Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Thursday, December 12th. I'm Robert Blaskowitz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Joined with me today, Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times, and Times Assistant Managing Editor Krista Zivanovic. Lots to get to, especially the big breaking news of the day, which was the vote by the Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission members on the Illiana Expressway. It's what we've been waiting for. And it was not unexpected, but the vote was 76-20. It was a weighted vote. There weren't that many people in the room, but larger communities got basically a larger share of the vote. So it passed 76-20. Your reaction on what transpired today, and how the vote went down?
Excuse me.
Sure. I thought you were going to comment.
No.
Okay. Well, what occurs to me is that this was weighted based on the population of the town, and so who are the two big elephants in the room? It's Hammond and Gary. Each of them accounts for a little over 10% of the population of the three counties when you Lake Porter and LaPorte put together. And so what was interesting was Tom McDermott, the mayor of Hammond, led the charge for the weighted voting, but it didn't land the way he thought. I think as we looked at it afterward, had he not gone for a weighted vote, had it been just strictly as a show of hands, it would have won by 2 votes. But because he and the other opponents wanted the weighted vote, it won by a much larger margin.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it seems like he wouldn't have asked for the weighted vote if he knew that Gary Mayor Karen Freeman-Wilson was going to vote for. She voted for the Illiana. If he had known that,
I think he thought she was going to vote against it as well.
There's no way he would have asked.
I think
for the
he was
vote.
Playing chicken. I agree.
Well,
I agree.
That, and then there are a lot of smaller communities that I think he misgauged how they would vote too. What I found interesting was the number of communities that didn't have representation there. Now that's either because there are vacancies that haven't been filled, and in that case you'd think that they would definitely want to fill those vacancies, because NERPC is a big deal. This is where all the road dollars get divvied out.
Right. It's the federally recognized planner for our area.
So there's a lot at stake, and there's some who just didn't show.
And I'm looking at the list of that you have there, and a lot of them are from Porter County, LaPorte County. The expressway does stop at I-65, so it does not, for now at least, is not planned to go into those counties. St. John also.
Let me run through this list real quick. Yeah. It's Dune Acres, and these are in alphabetical order.
Of the ones that did not send representatives, either because they don't have them right now, or they chose not to attend.
So we have Dune Acres, Kingsbury, Couts, La Crosse, Michiana Shores, Ogden Dunes, the Pines, Potawatomi Park, which is right outside Michigan City, St. John, and Westville. So
St. John is the one that sticks out.
It does.
Like a sore thumb in that.
It does because it's right there in Lake County. Yeah. So you would think that they would want to have somebody there. And I haven't checked
and closer to where than a lot of Lake County communities.
Well, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, and they've, of course, been very vocal on the E911 issue. Maybe they used up all the oxygen in the room and didn't have any left for this.
So planning can now go forward for the project. It may begin as soon as 2015. They'll have to, of course, get private investors on board. This is a private-public partnership. This project is meant to be, so.
Right, and it has huge support from both governors, Pat Quinn in Illinois and Mike Pence in Indiana. It has huge support from the senators on either side. And
there was acknowledgement of the difficult part of this project, which was the fact that you are displacing some people from their homes. Those people in Lowell, we heard from them, and we had reported in this weekend in past Sunday's Times on some of their issues with the plan, and even had videos. If you go online, you'll see videos of some of those people.
Right, many people who moved from Illinois or other parts of the region to go there because it's bucolic. They feel safe. They can have a lot of land. They have room to breathe. And now some of them, their dreams really are dying.
What I think needs to be dealt with, and Craig Early, who's the Lowell representative on NERC, actually he got appointed, he's on the Lowell Town Council, he got appointed specifically to cast a no vote on this project. But Craig's point is that, look, we've got a volunteer EMS department down here, firefighters, and if you're going to be relying on volunteer services to respond on the road, that could take them away from the town where they might be needed at the same time.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an issue that I don't think was really a problem when you put an expressway, the Borman Expressway, through the northern part of the county, which had, professional fire departments handling these. But it's,
hopefully with a combined E911 in Lake County, eventually, finally, maybe there will be some synergy or some, economies of scale that will be reached. I would just like to, not to drag this out, but I would like to mention Gary Mayor, Karen Freeman-Wilson, wrote rather almost an essay explaining her vote, and she did mention her sadness and feeling for the people in Lowell, and she also talked about how maybe some people did not expect her to vote for it because of her wanting to watch out for the Gary Airport, which, though it's a region resource, she sees it as a Gary resource, and she understands that many people think this will give a boost and a boon to a potential Peatone third airport. But she did talk very eloquently, I thought, about the need for us to think of ourselves as a region and to see the bigger picture and to see ourselves. She talked about southeastern Wisconsin, she talked about Illinois, that we are part of a bigger region. And it was the same theme that Mayor Daley spoke about a few months ago at the Big One Region Luncheon when he talked about in China they have these huge region cities and they are getting great economies of scale and able to do a lot, not just with infrastructure and education, but with the arts. And she really has a vision for Gary being part of a greater region, and I was impressed with that, and I thought it spoke well for her.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, shifting gears to the state, and some interesting things going on with Governor Pence, some of the news he's making this week. One of the things he's trying to do is he would like to eliminate business personal property tax. Which is a great source of revenue. It's a tax on a lot of equipment, manufacturing equipment that businesses have. And so, of course, in regions like ours that are reliant on these huge steel mills and other industrial facilities, it's a great source of local revenue. And eliminating that would basically really slash local budgets, and the question was posed to the governor how he would replace those revenues, and he was kind of cagey about it.
He was very cagey.
But the obvious answer would be, well, you could raise individual income taxes, which would kind of go against what he's done, which is to lower the individual income tax.
At the state level.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's a lot of unanswered questions about this plan.
There is. I can tell you it's something that the business community is, really, really interested in. When you think about it, look at, picture a steel mill. What do you see? Well, you see, a lot of basic, sheds. I mean, you're looking at pole barns in essence, in terms of, you have a metal building and all of this stuff. So, when you look at the building itself as an improvement, it's really not worth a whole heck of a lot. It's all the equipment in there that does all the work that's the source of the taxes. So for Lake County, you're talking 2012, that came up to somewhere around $109 million.
Yes, it did.
So
yes,
you're talking, what's the equivalent? Well, that's essentially the equivalent of a 1.5% income tax that was just implemented. So, I've already heard from people who have said, those Lake County people, they, are already talking about doubling the income tax. No, they're not. That's the idea that,
that's what would have to happen if we wanted, because that money goes specifically to schools and local governments. So unless we want to slash our local government and school budgets, the money would have to come from somewhere. I would also, my question about it was, what more does Indiana need to do to make itself attractive to business? It already is in the top 5, top 10 among every benchmark that you look at as far as a tax-friendly state, non-union viewpoint. So I'm not quite sure exactly what more this would do, especially when you look at, and I don't mean for our local steel mills because they still are struggling, but overall corporations throughout the country are sitting on some pretty hefty profits. So would this really result in more jobs and investment? I don't know.
Well, and
that would then counter, what we have to pony up in our own personal income.
But the other component of luring businesses is quality of life, and that goes to infrastructure, quality of education, and those are all things that cost money. And if you're slashing the budget to this untenable amount, then you basically shoot yourself in the foot on that. And then people see a state with crumbling roads and slashing their education budget, and they're going to say, well, we don't want to locate there. Our employees won't want to live there, and so you have that
and the
issue.
Executives won't want to live there.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Especially, and the other thing is, you have to look at how the burden is being shifted onto individuals, the burden of supporting government. I'm talking about. So already in Indiana, you have a state sales tax that's 7%. That's the highest state sales tax anywhere in the country except California, and we're tied with them. I mean, you look at California, it's a high tax state, and Indiana's tied. So that's an issue that certainly needs to be thought of. And if you're squeezing the individuals more to make up for it out of their income tax, then that's certainly going to be a concern because who does the voting? Businesses don't vote. They may spend money on the campaigns, but it's the individuals who vote.
And also, we might be a great state to do business in, but wasn't there a recent Bloomberg study, or Bloomberg reported that Indiana ranks 40th in per capita income? So even though Mitch Daniels tried and he made it a component of his campaign, we still, as a whole in the state, do not have high incomes. And I heard a counter, I don't know if it was Governor Pence or someone who said, well, our cost of living here is cheaper. I don't think it's that much cheaper with...
You're in the Chicago market here.
Exactly. I don't know for the rest of the state, but
when you look at the population distribution, there's, essentially there's Indianapolis, there's the vast empty, and then there are the corners of the state that are,
Are cars that much cheaper in Indiana compared to the rest of the country? I don't think so. Is gas?
And per capita income.
Healthcare, is that a lot cheaper? I mean, what?
Per capita income, I'll have to say, did improve under Governor Daniels, but that just tells you how bad it was to start.
Precisely.
So we've got a long way.
So that'll be interesting.
Right. Well, real quickly, wanted to touch on before we adjourn. The governor also made news when he released his roadmap for education, his agenda. And it included a lot for wanting to increase charter schools. It included a lot about job training, wanting to integrate career training more into the schools. And one of the more interesting ideas I thought in it was the idea of providing a state stipend to public school teachers who would leave their public school for a failing charter school. I don't think that's going to go over very well politically, and I think it seems like the people advising Governor Pence weren't paying attention last year during the Tony Bennett, Glenda Ritz campaign.
Well, I was wondering whether Tony Bennett wrote the plan for him. And by Tony Bennett, we mean the former superintendent of public instruction, got voted out of office last year, pretty resoundingly defeated, actually, and then has been mired in scandal since. This is, wow. I mean, what more can you say?
Well, and I think Senator Earlene Rogers, who is a former teacher and she is the chair of the Education Committee, she said, she never had anything against charter schools, which are public schools. They were supposed to be an incubator, an idea place. But she said she's disturbed that they're being seen as an alternative to public schools, even though we have about 10 or 11 in Northwest Indiana, 71 in the state as a whole. Overall, their scores are not anywhere better than public schools. So to try and keep devoting all these resources and touting the excellence of charter schools, I wonder if that is the direction we should be going in.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people that are invested in their community schools and loyal to their community schools, and they send their kids to the community public schools. And to see them, the state trying to use your taxpayer money to steal your favorite teacher and send them over to a charter school, I don't think that, I just can't see this going over well politically.
And it's not to say we did not need reform in schools. I think Tony Bennett did a lot of good. I think that we can see it in local high schools here. Hammond High School, Calumet High School really improved and did some really creative things and raised their scores, some schools in Gary. So it's not to say we didn't need reform. And that all public schools are great, but I agree. This just seems to be going in the wrong direction.
And the interesting thing is that last week we saw the CECI release its agenda for its legislative agenda, and that idea was on it, the idea of paying extra to charter school teachers, subsidizing charter school teachers, and it was dismissed as being politically unworkable. So I just... the whole thing confounds me politically.
Yeah, well, it'll be an interesting legislative session. There's a lot queued up for it.
Yeah. Well, we'll be bringing you all that in future episodes, so we thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week with another Political Roundtable.